Hey Prakhar, how are you doing?
Hey Pratik, I'm doing good. How are you?
Thank you for good. I'm good. Thank you for accepting our invitation to talk with us. Guys, just to introduce Prakhar, Prakhar has spent approximately 15 years in the world of data. He's worked with some of the renowned data consulting firms, ranging from Absolute Data, Boston Consulting Group, Dunnhumby, among others. And plus, he's been a serial entrepreneur as well. He just last year he sold one AI company after starting it only in less than 1 year, and now he's working on his second project. Plus, Prakhar has been one of our great faculty team members as well. He is engaged with us multiple times. Plus, he's one of our very strong advisors on various different data science related things that we take his advices upon. Plus, he's been a recruiter from us as well. He's recruited a lot of our students. Prakhar, thanks for being being a mentor for the entire team. Prakhar, I wanted to just keep the discussion very focused to two things today. One,
Mhm.
since you have been a recruiter for a long time as well, you've been recruiting people for your own company as well. And so I want to ask you that what are the things, what are the skills, what are the skills that a data science recruiter look for in a
Mhm.
new data science aspirant? That's going to be the first question that I'm going to ask you. And the second set of questions would be around that as somebody who's new to this data science world, what tips would you give to that person as to how to prepare for those
Mhm.
interviews, right? So these
Mhm.
are going to be the two major questions. But before we ask this question, I want to also ask you that you graduated from IIT Delhi, and I wanted to understand how did you decide to get into data science world?
Okay. Sure. So let me take that thing first. Basically, how did I get into data science? Honestly, like I think I think part of journey when you start your first job. Okay, and at times I think you don't have the choices. Okay, but yeah, when you're working and you try to understand the world and basically the work within the companies, you definitely has a lot of opportunities at that time. I think that's where basically I was always being lucky to had some right selection. Okay, so I think when I had my first job from IIT Delhi, it was basically in the uh, business process improvement in ICICI Prudential Life Insurance in Mumbai, and that's where basically I got the very first exposure of the whole DMAIC principle under Six Sigma. I also tried to do a green belt certification there,
So the
and that was
DM,
my first exposure to data.
sorry, what was that process that you spoke about?
The
Oh, the
DMAIC,
CRISP.
define,
Okay,
measure, analyze, consult.
got it.
Yeah. So that was the framework under which the whole Six Sigma processes are being worked out.
Right.
So that was my first exposure, and I think that's where when I realized that how you're using data to improve processes. Okay. In fact, like before that, I always used to be thinking that how you use data to improve processes because there's a lot of talks around it. Okay, if you don't have data, you can't be competitive. The Uber is like one of the great way why it is so successful. It's just because it is using data so nicely. Okay, so that thing always used to perplex me, but when I started doing things practically with my hand, okay, and with the whole experience, I started understanding the power of data, and that's when basically I started realizing that I need to go more deeper into the data. That's where basically I think after working for close to 2 years at that first department, I switched myself internally towards another department, I say differential, which was the business intelligence. And basically that was again, so the data was there, but the another challenge that I faced after that was basically how you do the coding, because at that time people were using SAS. Okay,
Right.
SAS was quite prominent. There were not so many open sources. Also, the knowledge was not that much prevalent like the MOOC courses now we have. So you always have to struggle even to learn a normal logistic regression, the linear regression, okay, because you don't have enough good content around you. And obviously you don't have enough. So you always have to rely on some of the documentation that your company has provided or created over time. And they're good, but not that good the way right now it is all available. So the another challenge is obviously once you understand the data, how you take some meaningful information
Insight.
out of it. And obviously you again have to do it in quite good turnaround time because businesses can't like keep waiting for days or months to just get some basic insights. So that's when basically I started learning SAS. I realized the importance of coding. because I was quite a poor coder in my college times. Never used to think of it that hardly. But
But
after once I
SAS coding is not that not like C++ coding, right?
Yeah, it's not. It's just a module-oriented coding. You just need to know the whole syntax and basically all the options. Just like you have to learn all of them by heart, and
Yes.
if you know them by heart, I think you can run your program quite fast. Again,
Yeah.
end of the day, there are way like in which you can optimize your code, because what happens, same code can take 1 hour or 1 day. So this makes you basically this different from being a good and not so good data analyst. So that was my another, I would say, journey that I learned. So I quickly basically learned the SAS at that time. And after that, because I was kind of more interested, I saw that there's more opportunities that I wanted to look. And that's when basically I joined a company called Dunnhumby. Dunnhumby being in retail, I would say, universe, there's a lot of data. Okay. And there were a lot of solutions around that. So we started looking into all those data, digging more deeper insights and getting more value to the customers. And at the end of the day, obviously, it's a win-win for the company and basically its customer both. So this is, I would say,
So
was my early
Dunnhumby,
experience towards the data.
within Dunnhumby, you must have worked with a lot of retail and sales analytics clients, right?
Yes. So in Dunnhumby, majorly I used to work with Tesco, and Tesco basically it has like different international business in Southeast Asia and Europe. So I was handling Korea, China at some point of time, and
Mhm.
basically all the analytics, basically whatever happening in the retail stores, I was kind of leading it. So that's again started giving me more, I would say, an experience at how you're just just using the power of data, okay,
Mhm.
and then basically how it's bringing the benefit to everyone in the, I would say, the ecosystem, the company, the your suppliers, your vendors, everyone in the company, and obviously finally the customers. So I would say that these were my initial earlier experiences, but I would say the other thing which also like helped me is basically a constant urge to learn, keep learning, because what I've seen is at times people stop learning also, and it should not matter like how old are you, or basically how much experience you have, your learning should keep continuing. So that's another important thing that I have tried to still I'm tried to maintain. The thing is, because over time we have seen the Python coming up. Like at some point of time, the R as a language was quite popular. I will say between 2005 to 2011 and 12, the SAS was very popular in terms of statistical analysis
Okay.
software. After that, the R used to be R was a new language. It's quite easy again. It started popping up, and then after that again the Python. Okay, Python and R, there's always a constant jiggle between them. But again, Python has crossed the R, and now I think most of the things are being people are doing in R. So I will say still, if you start learning these languages by heart, I don't see it just matter of syntax. Okay, it doesn't matter basically how much good you are with R and Python. You can always Google out and do your things. The thing is, you need to be more solid from the conceptual foundations point of view. If you know the foundation of a programming, okay, it doesn't matter like you can do the coding in R, Python, C, Java. There are some new languages that has come up, Rust and Julia. Okay,
Mhm.
they're also quite promising now these days.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter. I think the one thing is people at times are scared about coding. I think you just need to come over over that scare. The moment you do it, you start seeing the magic. Because what I start now believing is because the coding is one thing which can help you create your, I would say, childhood fantasies. Okay, if you really want to live into a different world, obviously in practical it's not possible, but if you know coding, you can definitely make that world for yourself and you can start living into it. So that's the beauty of coding.
That's a very good
So
point.
so that's how basically I have also learned over time, and I think it's a constant learning for all of us. So always keep learning, never stop, because it's never end.
Great, great.
If you ask me, when I now just if I jump to your question, basically what kind of things as a recruiter I kind of look into the data analyst, data scientist. So I would say, like had it been 2000, okay, or maybe before that, when we used to look at CVs, what we used to see is like a lot of people used to put that they know Excel, they know presentations, okay, and these things used to basically make you distinguish from any other CVs. So these things used to be the key skills, okay, I would say the utilities at that time, which people which are valued a lot. But now these days, if you write that you know Excel and you know presentation making, I think no one looks at it as a skill, because it has become a commodity. Okay, It's by default that people expect you to work on this. So what happens is over time, so this shift keeps happening. So if you look at the skills of this coding also, okay. So when we talk about a data scientist, it's a combination of three important things. You one is data science. You actually statistics. Within data science, there are three important things. So first one is the statistics. Second one is I would say is your the programming, the coding language that you know. The third one would be your experience that you basically gain over time working for a particular industry or solving its problem.
So the domain experience.
So I don't expect, yes, the domain experience. So I don't
So you
expect you to be good in the domain experience from the day one.
No, so sorry,
But
sorry to interrupt here. So you said that you're saying that in data science there are three things that you look for. One is how good you are in statistics. Second is you said how
correct.
good you are in a little bit of coding, and the third you said how much of a little
Yes,
bit of domain experience or where have you applied what you have learned.
correct.
The
Yeah,
experience
definitely.
part of. But if somebody is a fresh college grad, then how would they prove the third point?
So I don't expect the third point to be proven by them. The only thing
Okay,
is, but I expect them to be good with the first two parts.
okay,
And there's lot of things that you can do in the with the first two parts, okay?
yeah,
Because so this is I would say the whole universe of data science. And again, within data science, then you talk about the machine learning, okay?
right,
In the machine learning world, there are a lot of algorithms that are there. So what I expect basically for a newcomer to be good with the understanding of those algorithms, okay,
okay,
from the conceptual point of view. So if someone talks about the k-mean, then you should be knowing how k-mean works, okay, in a very simple way. Okay, like the great people always say that you should be able to make this whole algorithm explain to let's say 5-year kid,
yeah,
okay, or maybe to your grandmother. So
yeah.
that's a level of simplification that you should be able to do.
So
And if
when
you're
in
able
the
to do it, I'm
interview,
sure like you,
so in the interview, I'm so sorry interrupting you. In the interview, you actually
sure,
asked
sure.
the candidates to explain, let's say, one of the machine learning algorithm as if they were explaining it to their grandmother or a 5-year-old sibling.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
And
So
why
that's
do you
pretty
do that?
important. So the important thing about doing it is basically you want to understand the I would say the problem solving nature of obviously the guys.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is if you are able to break the problem, okay, there is a big problem, okay, and if you are able to break it into a smaller parts, and then for each of these smaller parts, basically you are able to identify very simple solution which you can explain it like very simple words. So that's the simplicity everyone is looking, okay? Because end of the day, if you see, like we are talking about data science as a role, as a profile, but what is the final goal of any data analyst? Okay, it needs to support to the business. I don't expect the other businesses, the people in the sales operations to understand like these algorithms in very deep. But what they want is basically an output which can help them grow business end of the day. Okay, because end of the day, whatever you do as a data scientist, it has to relate back to the business, and business has to gain something out of it. So since you have as a data scientist by default that you have to keep interacting with these guys, you have to explain everything okay in such a simple so they understand, because if they understand that output better they can sell it better, okay, and that's a win-win for everyone. But if you let's say make your output so complicated that the other guy doesn't understand, and if he doesn't understand he won't be able to use that output, okay, in whichever way he wants. So that's why basically there's always lack of communication, and to overcome that it has to be basically in a very simple way.
Okay.
The other thing is basically it's also about the way you present, okay, because at times what I've seen even like have seen that people who are quite good with the algorithms and everything, uh, their presentation skills are not that good, okay. So what people do is because an analyst who is working on the data side, he's so overwhelmed like with that data that comes to him and basically the kind of knowledge he has, that he does let's say 5 to 10 days job, and after that he creates some segments, and then he creates a presentation. In the presentation what I have seen is basically a lot of data, okay, I don't see insights. So when I'm talking about insights, basically it's about just 2 or 3 simple things that he's getting as a key thing out of that whole analysis, not the everything that he's kind of putting up. So what people do is more of a data puke, okay. So I take this word from Avinash Kaushik. He is one of the I would say very great leader in this whole marketing in, world. uh, so he's coined this term as data puke. So I have seen like 90% of the scientists data scientist or data analyst, what they do is they're all good.
Sorry,
But
Prakhar, your voice is breaking up. What did you say in the
sorry,
last?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, your voice is breaking up. Srishti, can we stop recording? Acha. Can you hear me now, Prakhar?
Yes, now it's much better.
So yeah, sorry. Going back a couple of minutes back. So you were talking about, I suppose, somebody's quote you
Yeah,
were talking
Avinash
about.
Kaushik. Yeah,
Yeah.
Avinash. Yeah. So he's basically right now leading the whole marketing for Google
Okay.
from its headquarters. So he writes quite an amazing blog, which I follow basically not just in terms of just marketing insight, but normally how do you should be showing your data to your users. Uh, if you even read his 4 or 5 blogs, I'm sure that you know what to do when you have so much of data and how to present it. So he's presents it very beautifully. So I
So you're
definitely
saying
recommend like the newcomers to
presentation.
go through his blogs.
So you're saying presentation of insights is extremely important at times, probably more important than just running the data models. Is that what you're trying to communicate, Prakhar?
Definitely. So exactly. So I will say if it's a Pareto principle, okay. So what happens is 80% of the time, okay, uh, analysts, data analysts, data scientists, they keep doing all the hard work, but whatever output they create, okay, that's only the 20% helpful to the business. What they don't do is basically summarize it well and
Okay.
in a very simple way to the business, which I say the another 80%, which is only 20% of the effort after that. Okay, you've already put your 80% of the effort, so only 20% is left. But impact of this 20% is actually the another 80% that you can create on the business.
So Prakhar, if I
This
may
is
ask
where
you
I've
this
seen like
question,
90.
if I may ask you a question here, uh, how would you suggest somebody, a new data science aspirant, to prepare for this aspect? That how should I start
Yeah.
presenting well?
So I would say, obviously, you need to understand how to create like the basic elements in the presentation. And after that, on the business side, you always need to think that let's say if you don't know anything, okay, just be in the shoes of your client, and then try and see like how you will understand that output. Okay, if I will be explaining someone the R square, okay, if I've just done the regression, I will be telling him the coefficients. It doesn't make sense to him. Okay, I'm putting all the data on the slide, and I'm just like because I'm overwhelmed because I've done that whole analysis. I'm talking about the multi-causality and everything. It doesn't matter to my client, okay? For my client, they just want an equation or the output, okay? And basically, how that output gonna help them solve the
Answer
business
their
problem.
business questions ultimately.
Correct. So I will say for a newcomer, definitely recommend reading Avinash Kaushik's blog. Okay,
Okay.
even if they read 5 6 blogs, I'm sure they would be able to learn a lot. Okay, and if you follow him, because I think he at very frequency on a very frequent basis he keeps blogging. So if you kind of follow him, that's definitely going to help. Apart from that, there are also some good presentation I think skills you will find it online. So definitely try and follow those guys who actually create some such great presentations, so that you also get the idea what to put into a presentation, what not to.
Good.
So that's where I definitely see in data analyst adding a lot of value. With only 20% of the work, you can actually add 80%, okay, of the impact. You can create the 80% of the impact. So that's what I feel. Apart from this, I think another thing which I've seen in the newcomers is basically somehow they're not using the state of the art, I would say, the version control mechanism. Okay, so what happens is when you're a data and science data analyst, you focus too much on obviously learning these algorithms. Okay, which is good, which definitely you have to. But then you just learn them in a language, okay, and it should not matter because later on, let's say if you're working on R, Python, Java, if you're good from the concept point of view, it should not matter to you because if you know the concepts, I think it's just a matter of syntax. Syntax can be read from the internet, and then you should be able to create a model in any of the language that you have. So that's where definitely you want to push basically any newcomer to not to just focus on this, but also uh, learn them conceptually rather than just learning the language and basically its particular syntax. So
And
learn it
how do you test
algorithmically,
it
I would
in
say.
the interview? How do you test this particular skill in the interview?
So, so lot many times I basically only ask interview to rate himself on a scale of 1 to 5 on these software skills and the algorithm skills. Okay, And I asked him which one is their favorite algorithm. Okay, because when you're working so hard to learn these algorithms, they always kind of come up with something favorite, or maybe
Yeah.
they it's I make them think over that. And once they tell me something, I just ask them to explain it to me in a very simple way. Okay, and I think that's good enough indication that how smartly someone has understood. So I would say that's on the concept point of view. And I think once if they have done any project on top of it, I also ask them to explain that project to me. And another angle that I will add is basically why he has done something. Okay, because what happens is now these days there are so many resources that are available on YouTube and basically the MOOC courses. So people try and do all these courses. Okay, someone has done the sentiment analysis, but they don't need think beyond that. Okay, with they're just happy that they have run some code and they've got some output, and that's it. And I think people are putting into their CVs with it happily. But problem is, what after that? Okay, you have done the sentiment analysis. They don't understand the business context from there. Okay, so that's very relevant. So people are, I'm seeing, like copying pasting these things, which is always good because you anyway have to keep learning. But don't stop your learning just to that video. You also need to always link that thing towards a business context. And the data science is all about storytelling. Okay, end of the day, because you have the data, you have to come up with the insights. And unless you tell a good story to your client, you won't be able to sell that stuff. Okay, so you have to connect it to the business context to give a strong story to your client. Okay, and you can always think of it. Okay, because if you've done sentiment analysis, what benefits will bring to that particular business. Okay, how much impact it can create. So even if you kind of quantify some of these things, it's always going to help. And
So when you
uh,
say storytelling, Prakhar, so you're saying that tell how your model outputs or the interpretation from the model outputs answer what kind of business questions and what kind of impact does it have on the business, right? On the, I mean, basis the model that you have created.
correct. So once you once you have the model, thing is how much impact it can create on the business side. Okay, and how it can create. Okay, because let's say if you have done the segmentation for a credit card company, what I've seen is data scientists, they just stop it there. Okay, we have done the segmentation, but what after that? Okay, if you have created why you have created 10 segments, 20 segments, not 100 segments. Okay, you can create like as many segments. Okay, these algorithms can cut fine all these different uh, customers that you have. But thing is, end of the day, it also needs to be practical. Okay, so you need to understand once you give the segment, your marketing team will come. They will take it up. They will understand the profiling that you have done for each of the segment, and then basically they will create some offers. Once they create some offers, then the next question to these guys would be which channel, which media they should be using. Okay, to communicate that offer to the customer. So at the end of the day,
Sorry,
it's
your voice
about
is,
growing your business, so retaining your customers.
Prakhar, your voice is breaking up. Sorry, last 1 minute, if you can repeat what were you saying?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So what am I audible now? Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
yeah, now. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if I just take an example of simple segmentation exercise, okay, I'm sure like a lot of data analysts, they get overwhelmed when they really complete their first segmentation, okay, on a project. But thing is, they stop there, then and there, okay. They think that their job is over as a data scientist, okay. But this is not a world where you think that your job is over at that time. Because the thing is, once you create these segments, let's say you looked at a million customer of a retail bank, all the credit card purchases and everything, and you come up with some 10 segments. Now what after that? Okay, the thing is, you need to understand how that whole data will be used by a business now. Okay, because end of the day, business is only paying you. And you also need to understand that, let's say if in a company, now let's say this, that there are only three kind of profiles. Okay, you have your data scientist, you have your sales, and you have your operations. And
Okay.
you are the CEO.
Okay.
So let's say suddenly COVID comes. Okay, we all know the impact of COVID. Your sales, everything has slumped in your company. So which profile is most important to you, and who are the guys you're gonna fire first? Okay, so I think if you say data analyst, then I think you're on right thinking. So you should be able to understand how much value are you generating. Okay, so in that way you always need to think, because unless you start integrating yourself into the other businesses, operations, and thinking, okay, you won't be able to grow and you won't be able to make your company grow. Okay, and that's always the risk.
So
So
I
you should
think what
always
you're
understand it from that angle.
so you're saying that as a young data science aspirant, I should also know where data science what role it plays in the entire business chain, and not just be limited to the data.
Definitely.
Correct.
Definitely. So you need to understand the whole value chain where you are playing a role, and how you, whatever work you are doing is able to integrate basically with the whole business context.
And how would a young person learn the entire business value chain? What would you recommend him or her to do?
I think for that, I understand it depends on the situation, but you always need to be curious and asking questions, okay? And I'm sure, like, as long as you keep doing it, your managers, everyone will support it. The thing is, because as a data scientist, we don't think, we don't ask. Okay, I think, and the first thing which actually is a very preliminary to any data scientist, keep asking it. Because when you have the data, you have to ask more questions. Okay, you can't just start taking the data, understand things, have some assumptions yourself. So always be explicitly okay asking all these things, okay, so that you can it's going to help you.
Okay, very good.
So I would say that that's one thing. Another important thing is basically the use of these some of these softwares, okay, the version control things, basically, which I've seen people at times are messing up from the curriculum also. So the use of GitLab, okay, and basically the use of all these version control things, like what is GitLab, what is Bitbucket, what is GitHub, okay, Git. What are the differences between them? How you should be using it? Because what happens is, and with after like this whole COVID thing, now you guys are working remotely, okay, and end of the day you have to work as a team. So how you make sure that whatever you're developing, generating, okay, is all being properly managed, okay, properly controlled by your organization. So you should be quite familiar with all these things. And another thing I think to this tool I would say is the project management, okay. You should also be having some skills in terms of your Confluence, Jira, okay, because they are again kind of becoming a commodity. Okay, right now I will put them into a utility, but soon they will become the commodity. And the thing is, people won't be asking you whether you know these things or not. It's by default that you should be knowing it. Okay, now every startup is using the Confluence, Jira, okay, because there is a clear advantage of it. Okay, when you are running with like team of 3 or 4 people, you have to have proper coordination and management of all the workflow information around it. So how will you maintain all these things? You need to learn all these bits, and it won't take much time. Okay, it's just a matter of, I would say, a week's time or less than that. I even like weeks sounds more, but these
Jira
are some
is
of the
a
good
great
practices.
agile tool, right? Jira is a great
Yes,
agile tool to manage the entire agile project management process. And you're
correct,
saying that all data science projects ultimately have a component of deployment, and hence the companies end
correct.
up managing those using some agile methodology, and that's where Jira comes from the picture.
Yeah, definitely. So these are the project management tools. I would say that definitely a new data scientist has to learn. So I would say like a couple of things as a recruiter, which I see, and I'm kind of at times happy when I see these qualities in a newcomer. So obviously, knowing about these project management tools, even if he's not used it, if he knows about it, I think it's good. The Jira Confluence. Then there's again the version control tools. At least a knowledge of GitHub, your GitLab, okay, which is open source tool. So because companies can use any one of these, okay, and the Bitbucket, which is again Atlassian's the product only. A knowledge of this, okay. So after that, the another thing is basically obviously the basic understanding of the algorithm, how easily he's able to understand the algorithm and he's able to explain. So I always say, don't go. Obviously, like there's enough depth in the machine learning world. Once you know the machine learning, you can go switch towards the deep learning, and then obviously you understand more deeper things there.
So
But understand.
as a newcomer, do you expect a person to know deep learning algorithms as well, or what level of knowledge do you expect them to exhibit?
So as a newcomer, I don't expect basically the deep learning, I would say, knowledge that big, but I don't see deep learning quite different from your normal machine learning. Okay, because even if you talk about the regression,
Hmm.
you can run a regression in deep learning also. Okay, using a neural network. The only thing is basically the about concept. Okay, that's if you're clear with the concept, you will never ever face any challenge in the deep learning also. Okay, Because when you're talking about a normal regression, okay, so what are the components of regression? Obviously, you have a dependent variable, so you have independent variable. After that, what you do is basically the first thing, you create some kind of parameters, okay, the a and b, y equal to x plus b is your equation. After that, the second thing you do is basically you do some prediction, okay. Once you do some prediction, then you create identify the loss, okay, basically the differences, the errors that you have. And after that, what you do next is basically to you use a mechanism, okay. I think a lot of these scientists have, I think, I'm sure that they would have they would have known the differentiation and the integration part in their 10th and 12th classes, okay. There's nothing complication, okay. And also they have studied the metrics part in the 10th and 11th. So it's exactly that same concept, okay. There's nothing different. So you have to just apply what you have learned actually in your school time, okay. And if you're good with that, you just need to relate it back now here using the code.
So school was very
So the
important now,
next thing
you're
is you're
saying.
using gradient.
So you're saying that school was very, very important.
Yeah,
You should have focused
definitely.
in
The
school.
whatever you have read in the school, yeah, if you just remember those things and revise those things, the basic concepts, you can easily understand these algorithms. Because the next step is the gradient descent. Okay, what's happening in the gradient descent? And once you do it, you again get a parameter, you update your values, and then you again optimize. Okay, it's so that simple. So if you understand that algo, okay, I don't think you can apply that same algo in a linear regression. You can apply that same algorithm basically in the machine learning world using OLS, and then same can be applied on the deep learning also. That's it. And obviously, as you go more deeper, the complications will increase because you will be handling so much amount of data, which you call as a big data. Okay, and that's where basically, obviously, you need more computational power and basically the energy to work on that. But as long as you're clear with the fundamentals, I don't think anything gonna hamper you.
Tell me, Prakhar, a very good point here. So, just to summarize what you said one, that be very, very curious. Do not stop learning. Keep asking questions as to why you're doing this and
Yes.
how it can, whatever you're learning, how it creates impact on the business. I think that's a very,
Yeah.
very important point.
Never start a problem unless you are clear with the business impact.
Business object. Very good point. Second thing you said that tools keep changing, but but if you're
Concepts and the
clear, yeah,
algorithm they always remain same.
yeah, the concepts and the algorithms remain the same, so please focus on that. That's very important. Third, you said that sorry, you said that when you interview somebody, you want to see how well they can also tell the story of their data model that they have created, the business story, how much impact it has created and
Correct.
how it can create that impact. That's a very important thing you said. And one of the other thing that you said is that you always ask the candidate to explain an algorithm or a technique as if he or she is explaining it to a 5-year-old sibling or his or her grandmother, right? And you do that
Correct.
so that you can understand how good I mean, how simple their understanding of that algorithm is and how well they can communicate, and which is again kind of tagging back to data storytelling, right? Finally,
Yeah.
the thing that you said
I
is
think
that,
if you just
yeah,
relate this same, sorry, I think
good.
about this same aspect, if you relate it, I think again, if you go back in 1990s and 2000, okay, when every one of us wants to be placed in the TCS and Infosys of the world, okay, I think the Shakuntala Devi, okay, all these quizzes we used to do at that time, if you remember, okay. So now these days, obviously, while like these quizzes were being asked, because it's again how you try and solve a problem, okay, and when you are basically in a pressure situation in an interview. So it's the same thing, okay, because now era has, I would say, has changed into this new data science world.
Mhm.
So the only change is that happened is basically now you have come up with so many algorithms, okay. So these algorithms are also a part of like solving those puzzles. I don't find it different. It's just the way that we have changed it in terms of asking, and that's why basically they are very important.
Okay, very good. And that's probably also one of the reasons why many companies also ask brain teasers and logical puzzles in the interview as part of their
Yes,
data science interview process. Yeah, very good. I think logical thinking skills, problem solving skills are the basic fundamental pillars for any data science aspirant. You also said one very interesting thing that you look for in a newcomer is how well they document their own code, how well they document their own how well they do version controlling of their own codes, and also if they have a little bit of project management, especially agile project management, tool understanding and concept understanding, specifically, for example, Jira and Confluence, and creating epic stories and whatnot
Yes.
using those tools. And they're not very difficult. I understand that. Very interesting concept there. One last question to you, Prakhar. We have seen there are companies who use, who have multiple different interview rounds in, to assess a data science aspirant. What are your favorite interview rounds?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So,
what you mean by favorite interview rounds?
Yeah, I mean, say for example, a lot of companies have, aptitude round, written aptitude round, then a group discussion, then they ask them a technical question on statistics and machine learning algorithms, then they ask them a business situation or business cases or brain teaser. So, I mean, and different companies have different rounds. But so I just wanted to ask you, what because you have faced a lot of interviews, you've taken a lot of interviews as well. So what are your favorite rounds to assess data science aspirant?
Okay, so if you ask me, like how many rounds and basically what kind of rounds I would like to have for data science. The one is, it would definitely depend on the level that you're recruiting. So if you're just talking about the newcomers, I think one round that I definitely want to do is basically uh, some coding exercise for these guys. Okay, and I would say instead of coding, I will say more of an algorithmic round. Okay, where you basically has been given a problem and you just need to write basically an algo in terms of steps at how you will be solving it. Okay, so that's my favorite one. Okay, after that, because on coding part I'm still okay that he doesn't know Python. Okay, if someone doesn't know Python and versus he is able to explain all the algorithms quite simply, or someone who just knows the Python, okay, but he can't explain the algorithms, then I will definitely go for the guy who doesn't know Python. Okay, because the next thing is also about the attitude. If he's having a positive attitude, and basically the attitude should be that he can do it. Okay, I think in BCG when I was working, okay, so I was in Malaysia for a project, and we had a very big team. Okay, it was, I think, close to 25 people in the team, and I think that was one of the biggest project in BCG's history at that time. So a lot of people were from Singapore. Okay, and I think this is one thing which I learned from these guys. So what happens is what have used to happen at that time is our partners, whenever they used to give us some problem, okay, so I used to come and one of my counterpart from Singapore used to come. Okay, so we both were there in front of him, and that partner always used to give us a problem. Okay, obviously we have to come up with a solution. And whenever I used to hear that problem, okay, I always used to think that, okay, this is a problem. And then I always used to think that what all challenges I might face. Okay, suddenly because of you have whenever you hear a problem, and my answer always used to start with okay, but okay, but okay, if and else. But one thing I liked about the Singapore people is that they always say can. Okay, I think their and stop word is only can. Okay, and I think that's all, and that's the one thing I learned. So never say ifs and buts. Okay, if you have that positive attitude of can, okay,
So
I
never
think that
start with
itself
no,
makes
start
you
with yes.
thinking.
Never start
Yes.
with no, start with yes.
Exactly. Exactly, yes. And I think obviously then you have enough opportunities, time. Okay, you can just go back, you can identify a solution and come back with everything.
Good one.
So because at the
And
front,
this
at
is
the
something
first
that you
step,
test. This is something that you test during the interview as well. That a person, if he doesn't know,
definitely
is he saying there is yes, I can learn it. Yes, I can do it.
correct.
He's trying at least. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so attitude is very, very important. I would say if he doesn't have the attitude, if he doesn't reflect the attitude, the positive attitude, I don't recruit him generally.
Very good.
So yeah, so I would say the algorithmic part is my first favorite section. The second question is basically I would say face-to-face interview where he explains whatever he has done in a very simple way, and I'm okay with that. Uh, After that, I will while doing so, I think for juniors, I think two interviews are good enough. I think there's also one thing at the end of the day that if he becomes a CEO, okay, I always ask this problem, and basically if he has these different roles, which role he will give preference to, because this is also very important for him to understand. because if he understands that the sales is given the
So
highest
you're saying,
priority.
sorry, can you repeat that question? So you say that as a CEO, if there are three roles,
Correct.
sales, data scientist,
Operations
and
and
operations,
operations.
and who would you
Yeah,
fire first? You are in a trouble.
correct, correct. Because you also need, because if you find yourself so much valuable, you will never ever say that you will fire the data scientist, okay?
Okay.
And because that's what you're seeking for, okay? So that way you have to have some scale, okay, within you, so that you, whatever you're generating, it has to integrate in the business so deeply that you won't be able to, you won't be topping up that list.
Okay. Very good. So the right answer to that question is that you would want to fire the data scientist first, right?
We all don't, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Great talking to you, Prakhar. Thanks a lot for all the great insights that you gave us today. One of the key messages that I think I'm going to go with, and this is a message that I want to give to every viewer as well, that do not stop learning. Be very, very curious, especially when it comes to data
Yep.
science, because data science is a practical world which ultimately solves business problems. It solves problems. And unless you are curious like a kid,
Mhm.
as I always say, you will not understand what kind of impact and how your data models can generate what kind of impact to the business. So guys, keep learning and keep asking questions. I think these are the two very important messages that Prakhar is giving us here. Prakhar, it was nice. It was great having you here. As you've been a mentor to everybody here, and we'll keep looking forward to your advices and your mentorship. Thanks a lot for accepting today's
Sure.
invitation. And guys, do not forget to subscribe and like the video for more such one-to-one interviews with experts. Thanks a lot, Prakhar.